talking about Westworld, and holy shit, do we have a lot to talk about. Episode 9. How insane was that? I'm just going to do kind of a quick rundown on this because I'm actually still working on, sadly, my episode 1 breakdown that's over 3 hours long. So, yeah, let's just get right into it, man. So, Maeve flips Bernard. William is trying to convince Logan to get Dolores out of the park, which means there's two timelines that we're actually working with. Logan shows the photo to William, that's his fiance, and that's the exact same photo that Peter dug up that caused him to lose his shit. So Logan ends up cutting Dolores open, and, well, I guess 16 Volt can explain it best when they say she was just full of... Logan is the man in black. We do know that. Or actually, we don't really know that for sure, to be completely honest, but I'm assuming that's who it is because since Logan was the one who actually cut Dolores open, when we go back to when the man in black was talking to Teddy, he says, I cut one of them open the first time I was here, yada yada. So I'm thinking that's how that's going to go. So if Logan is the man in black, does that mean William is now the character of Wyatt that got forced into this whole story? So that when we fast forward, the man in black actually has to go back up against William, who is being labeled as Wyatt. Then right after that, we see Dolores Kutovich. So apparently she can now harm humans. So huzzah, that should make things interesting. Dolores' hallucinations are actually her recalling memories perfectly. They're not time skips like what I thought. Then Maeve also flips Hector. And the way that Maeve is doing it is brilliant because she's flipping these hosts not by force or by conning or by rewriting code. She's actually just being really honest with them and letting them make their first choice so that they can actually take that first initial step into becoming their own person to start their own path. She'll essentially lead them to water, but she will not force them to drink. And I think that is a beautiful and actually a poetic way of going about doing it. And in that little scene, we also see Maeve simultaneously fuck, kill, and commit suicide. So we all know that she is seriously talented.
World's gushiest orgasm?
And the scene, no pun intended, was actually kind of hot. With the fire and the imagery and how it was shot, it was just beautiful. So then we move forward and we find out that Logan forgives William and they have like a little bro moment. And you think, oh, yay. Then we cut to another scene and the hostess that we saw in episode 2, I've now labeled her hostess fuckcake because she just offs Teddy. And I think that's because she's hoping that the next time he comes around, he'll be better, he'll be more in touch with being sentient so that he can actually join Wyatt for this final showdown that we're going to have in episode 10. So I think that's what's going on there. We then cut to another scene and we realize that Charlotte is actually in league with the man in black. They're both in cahoots with one another and they both want Ford out. And you can definitely see that the man in black is really obsessed with the game, and Charlotte, being the outsider, just does not know why the hell he's even doing this. So I thought it was actually kind of a funny scene. Ashley goes to hopefully rescue Elsie. I really want her to be alive. I really don't want anything bad happen to her. When Bernard has his flashback, we actually see that in the mirror he's actually put Elsie in a chokehold. He wasn't actually like strangulating her, stabbing or anything like that. So I'm hoping she just got choked out. It's probably not going to happen. I'm going to stop guessing. I've been so wrong up to this point, and it's actually been a lot of fun. I was really hoping this show was going to make me wrong a lot, and it is, and I love it. So Ashley gets rocked by some hosts that were out there that don't respond to voice commands, so we can probably assume that they're sentient. And then we go and we see that William just has straight up cut up an entire platoon and left no one alive except for Logan. So if we go back to another episode when we heard that Teddy, when they roll up on all those bodies, is like, Wyatt was here because nobody was left alive. I'm wondering if this isn't the genesis of that. That is actually how William transforms into Wyatt, was with this one moment. And then we also learn another vital piece of information, which is apparently William doesn't like to be called Billy. So there's that. Put that in the old Didmic. So moving on. Bernard totally flips out on Ford. He ends up being regressed into himself, and he tries to basically unlock it, who it is that he really is and why he came to be. He identifies his cornerstone, and what he thought was initially punishment was actually how his whole center is being is actually grown out of. And then we learn that Dolores offs Arnold, and Arnold just happens to be Bernard. So that was a thing that happened, a little bit of a curveball. I did not see that. Somebody had told me that, of course, it was so obvious. How could I not have seen it? Because in episode 3, when they're looking at the photo, there was this big black part to the right-hand side, and I countered with, I did not know that was part of the photo. I actually thought the photo was cut off at that part. That the blackness was actually a building that's actually there in shadow, and I thought that was the edge of the frame, so I did not know what the hell it was they were talking about until I went back, and I actually freeze framed on it and went, oh. So yeah, they were right. Then we also find that when Dolores goes into the church and she sees all those malfunctioning bots, I thought that was actually really kind of a fun thing that they did there about the whole, because they were basically speaking in tongues, right? And they were like in the house of worship. So that all kind of came together, and I really kind of loved that, how that whole thing came together, especially when you think about how back in the day they treated mental illness with prayer and torture and all this other things. So it feels like it's got the references are in a bunch of tiny little pots, and I love that. I think it was really a smart move on their part. Then we cut back and we realize that Bernard actually wants to liberate the sentient hosts that are there. He kind of wants to be the shepherd that corrals them all together and sets them to freedom. And then Ford just forces him to commit suicide. So yeah, and that was another thing that happened. Didn't see that coming. I really thought that when Bernard had essentially begged for forgiveness and wanted to be rolled back, that Ford would do it. But then I keep remembering that Ford is not the sentimental type, and he just straight up cold offs him in probably the most poetic way that I've seen somebody force somebody to commit suicide. Not that I've seen a lot of that, but if I had, this would probably be the most poetic one out of them. So anyway, that is a quick rundown of what happened in episode 9. I'm really anxious to see what you guys have to say about it. I'm working hard to try and get all of my other breakdown stuff taken out. It's just that they're so ridiculously long because I really get into the shit. So please bear with me. This is a brand new thing that I'm doing. I'm not used to the software or anything, so I'm learning as I go. So I appreciate your patience, and I really love all of your great comments. That has been so much fun to interact with and actually see different points of view. That has been absolutely fantastic. I was actually giddy and really excited to bang it out on the keyboard. So thanks everybody. And with that, I'm just going to go ahead and let you wake up in 3, 2. And the safe was empty, motherfucker.